Hi guys, welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming, and today we are taking a look at Star Wars Outlaws. Okay, so let me tell you where I'm coming at this review from. I don't like Disney Star Wars. I think they've done a spectacular job of running it into the ground. I don't like Ubisoft. I've made videos on that in the past. I think they're generally the lowest common denominator. They tend to repackage their games and just throw them out with different coats of paint and say, oh well, look, it's Assassin's Creed in a trench coat, or it's, you know, Assassin's Creed first person, that sort of thing. So that's where I'm coming from. So I was quite surprised when I played Star Wars Outlaws, because, you know, not only do we have the Disney Star Wars thing, not only do we have the Ubisoft thing, we also have the intentional sort of de-beautification of the lead character, if you like, and she does look kind of funny. It's like all of her features have been tweaked to just be slightly off. Still would do it though, but I'm a thirsty boy, so whatever. But this was better than I actually expected, in all honesty. It's not great. It's debatable whether it's even good, but it's better than I was expecting it to be. It's not the worst game of the year or anything like that. I've seen a lot of people online, basically, with a lot of hyperbole, going, oh, where's the 2024? Oh, look at these bugs. I saw one guy laughing because red bars explode when you shoot them, and you're just like, you're reaching, bud. And you see a lot of like other commentators sit there watching videos from other people and critiquing the game based on that, and you're like, well, yeah, but like these videos are exceptional circumstances and could have their own biases, so I'm not sure that's fair. So what I did is I didn't pay £70 for it, don't worry, I'm not that silly. I did sign up for a monthly Ubisoft Plus or Connect or whatever the hell it's bloody called, the premium pack, which cost me a grand total of £15, I believe, and got the 3 days early access to play it, so I can drop the video the day after it actually officially comes out, which is nice. I played it as much as I can. I played it on PC. I understand there's a bug that reset or required you to start a new game, I should say, on PlayStation 5, which is, yeah, it's shit. There's no way of like sugarcoating that one. That's poor, especially if you've paid extra for the early access and actually bought like the £130 version and got the access from that. They should be refunding people the difference, at least in my opinion, on that stage. But the game itself, you play as KVS. You're a rogue type thief, basically. You get in a bit of trouble when a death mark put on you. And so you go to different jobs, you go to different planets, you get a speeder bike, and you have your little guy called Nix, who is possibly the best thing in the game, perhaps. Because he's so cute, and you do have these moments with him. You sort of sit down, and he's just so cute and adorable, and yeah, it speaks to my my feminine side, shall we say. I didn't know I had one either, it's weird. The game itself does come across as a bit of a hodgepodge of previous Ubisoft games. Like, you use Nix like you would use your cell phone, basically, in Watch Dogs. There's a lot of stealth in the game. It's probably my biggest sticking point with the game itself. There's a lot of stealth, and a lot of the stealth is insta-fail stealth. So sometimes if you get caught, that'll be it. Other times, if they set off the alarm, that'll be it. And the stealth isn't spectacularly done. I've seen people saying how easy the game is. I struggled. I think it was because of the way it's set up, though. For instance, they give you like a stealth situation, and you have like the illusion of there being multiple paths through, but really they only want you to go one way. There's one way which you should go, and if you try and go the other way, you feel like you can maybe do it. But after like failing for like a dozen times, you sort of look around for other options, find the other path, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that was a lot easier. So although it does give you that sort of freedom of, sort of illusion of freedom, I should say, it doesn't appear to be the case. And once you sort of clock that and you realize, okay, it's not working this way, let's see if there's another way, because obviously I'm going the wrong way, and I found that to be the case.
Yeah, sure.
There's a number of annoyances with the game that I personally have. Like, you can pick up enemy weapons, but doing almost anything will cause you to drop them again. Sort of interacting with consoles, climbing ladders, getting on your speeder, anything like that, loading screens, all that sort of stuff. You just drop it instead of carrying it around with you, which is a pain in the ass, really, and you don't really use them as much as you would because of that. It's a little bit like Sleeping Dogs, although Sleeping Dogs really sort of didn't want you really using weapons like that anyway. It wanted you to sort of interact with the amazing sort of melee system. There is a melee system in this. It's not amazing. A lot have been made of like Kay smacking stormtroopers over the back of the head with her fist and knocking them out, and yeah, it's dumb. They should have like given her like an attachment for the tip of her blaster that was like a taser or something, you know, something a bit more believable than like a 90-pound woman smacking an armored man in the back of his helmet and knocking him unconscious. The stealth takedowns themselves are not greatly executed. They're not very well animated, and as they say, the suspension of disbelief for a lot of them is it's incredibly high. And she punches like, I don't want to say a girl, but she punches like a girl. It's all arm punches. There's no real sort of engagement from your lower body where all the power comes from that, you know, you would see like anyone that's trained to throw a punch would utilize. So there's that. The combat in of itself is okay. I mean, you will be using your blaster for most of the time because, as I say, picking up weapons from your enemies is possible, but you drop them at a moment's notice for virtually doing anything, so you will generally rely on your blaster. It does have a couple of modes that you can use. So for instance, you might have enemies with shields, which you can shoot a shield with an ion shot from your blaster, and then switch back to a regular shot to shoot the enemy themselves, which is fine. You don't one-shot guys in the head, at least at lower levels of your blaster, which is a little bit, I'm not sure about that. So there's that. The game itself, I know it's had some of the piss taken out of it graphically, but for me, graphically, it's absolutely fine. It's one of the better elements of the game. All the vistas look very nice. It runs okay on my system, usually getting around 80 frames a second at 1440p. Ultra settings, no ray trace, DLSS on quality. And I don't have a problem with the performance or the frame rate. I haven't really experienced any judders. I've seen videos of weird bugs like sliding across the ground when you're doing a stealth takedown, things like that. Haven't really had any of that either. Haven't fallen through the map, anything like that. Perhaps my opinion would be slightly less positive if that had occurred. For me, it's mostly divorced from the Disney Star Wars we've been seeing. I think it's more in line with the stuff that we were seeing from the Cal Kestis games, and I never had a problem with either of those games, outside of the performance initially of Survivor, which was very quickly fixed, at least on my rig. So I take that as there are a few things where, like, you've got a reputation system for the three gangs that you interact with, and even if you have a terrible reputation, it must bend the knee to the story, and so you could end up having to take like a mission for a gang you have really bad relationships with and shouldn't be anywhere near. But there's that. I mean, you can really pile in one relationship or the other. There are upgrades to be found. It's not like a skill tree in this, so what happens is you meet a load of contacts that do different things, like upgrading your speed or your starship or whatever, and you do challenges and jobs for them, and then that gets you your upgrades. There's also crafting, so you'll pick up stuff and it will tell you what it's part of a recipe for, and you're like, oh, okay, I can make that now. And you go away and use workbench to make it, or adjust your pistol, or upgrade that. And you know, it's fine. It works fine. There's always something to do. There's a lot of side content. There's your major storylines. Obviously, they're all very well sectioned out. I did struggle with fast travel points because if you're close, there's lots of them around. You can fast travel, which is lovely. But when you're near one, it comes up with a lock on it. So I'm running around trying to see if there's like a console or something I have to interact with to unlock it, right? 10 minutes later, can't find anything. Been everywhere. Can't find a damn thing to unlock this fast travel point. And the reason it's got the lock on turns out to be I'm too close to it to use it. That's not a great way of showing me that game. So I was under the impression I would have to physically unlock fast travel points, but no, you just go to one, it unlocks it, and then as long as you're far enough away from it, you can fast travel to it again. But, you know, that wasn't a great way of displaying that. You do get a spaceship. It's not the prettiest spaceship I've ever seen. It's essentially a box with thrusters, but it works just fine. You can wander about it. Still waiting for that, Elite. Just saying. And and you can wander about it, and you can use a bench in there, and you know there's other stuff you can do. I quite like it. There is obviously combat and things you can do in space. Well, I say in space, it's more like in orbit of whatever planet you happen to be on. You can fly from the ground to orbit, but it is essentially a hidden cutscene, so it's not like No Man's Sky where you can just lift off and fly manually upwards until you hit space. You get up to a point where you're like, go into orbit now, and off you go. And it's the same when you come back, you're like, land now, and you pick a landing zone. So yeah, there's that. I mean, it's very oh god, what was the name of it? The sort of Starfield before Starfield that ex-employees did that I can't remember the name of. It came out with Space's Choice. We reviewed it. I can't remember the damn name of it. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like that. The combat is very reminiscent of the space combat, I should say, is very reminiscent of Battlefield 2. Which is fine by me. I am on record by saying I like the Starfire battles in Battlefield 2 and I like them here. There's less of a variety because obviously you're using the same ship, but you do get a few weapons and you can upgrade, and in fact you can get a turret going and stuff like that. So there's a bit more to it than you'd expect. Generally just doing space things is just shooting over cargo canisters and picking stuff up. There's a few instances where you need to sort of like go to a mission in space. So it is used, it's just not really dwelt upon and not reused enough. You'll be spending 99% of your time in levels or, you know, on planets or running about the place. I do really enjoy using the speeder bike. It has a nice sense of steering. I don't think it reverses correctly though, because I normally when you reverse like a car, it's like you turn the wheel the opposite way, right? In this, you turn the wheel opposite way, it just goes that way. And you're like, this doesn't feel... So I almost fell off a cliff because I was backing up the wrong way. Outside of that, it works fine. There are battles you'll get into that are sort of on the road. It doesn't feel... I mean, most games that have like vehicular combat like that doesn't feel natural. Unless it's super heavily sort of automated, like just pull the button, lock on, bam, 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 that sort of thing. So it feels clunky, but like I say, most games with vehicular combat feels clunky, unless the cars are the weapons themselves, in which case that's fine. But I was really expecting to not like this at all. I mean, I saw a lot of negative videos coming out, and to be honest, I'm going to play it more. I'm a relatively decent way in, and I'm enjoying my time with it, so I will play it more until, you know, Space Marine 2 comes out, and that becomes my life. I am so hyped for that. That's going to be amazing. Hats off to my sugar daddy Bungle, who did furnish me with a copy of that as well. Thank you very much. I will be making extensive use of that. In fact, I've booked an entire week off of work, which, considering the campaign's like 12 hours, probably is unnecessary, but who knows, I might actually break my own rules and experience the multiplayer as well. I know, shocking. But dragging it back onto the subject, Star Wars Outlaws, is it the best game ever? No. Is it a good game? Depends where you're coming from. I get frustrated by insta-fail stealth, and there is a lot of that in here. But outside of that, I don't have too many complaints about it. It's not. I don't think it's worth paying £70 for, and I certainly don't think it's worth paying £130 for, especially if they're going to fuck up your pre-access, you know what I mean? But for paying £15 on Ubisoft Connect, I'm perfectly happy to recommend it on that basis. I've gotten more than £15 worth of enjoyment out of it, so there you go, take away what you want. I think a lot of people hate on it because Star Wars is bad now, and while I do mostly agree with that sentiment, I don't think it's necessarily the entire case here. Yes, there's some things where you could be like, oh, for fuck's sake. But for the most part, I think it's fine, it's serviceable, it's, you know, you have things like £90 women knocking out armed stormtroopers, but blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Stormtroopers have always been very variable in their level of competence. In, like, the extended universe, they're like Navy SEALs. And, like, a lot of the other stuff, they're like clowns. But, there you go. So that's my 2 pence on this. I'm sure most people will disagree with me quite savagely. But, you know, it is Ubisoft, it is Disney Star Wars, and I completely understand just the visceral need to skin these things, but I just can't have an honest review and say that, essentially. I mean, the game is better than I expected it to be. Not brilliant, but it's definitely better than I'd expect it to be, and I don't normally give, like, out of 10, but I feel like in this case it'll be like a 6.5, maybe a 7. Probably edging more to the 6.5 though. So there you go, that's my review of Star Trek Outlaws. I hope you enjoyed it. I imagine I'm going to catch some flack for it, but whatever, tell me why I'm wrong, go on. And I'll catch you next time. Take it easy, guys.